All right. Hello, Jessica McIntosh.
Mhm.
Welcome to the
Hi.
show, friend. How are you today?
I'm so wonderful. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yes. And I know you're only like a couple miles away here. We're not that
I
far
know.
away from each other.
I was gonna
Next
say we
time we
probably
do
could have
this, I
met
just need
and
to
done
have you
this in
come in
person.
person now that I think about it. Just,
I
yeah, get another
know. And then we
microphone.
don't have to worry about internet connection.
Yes. I would love that. I love that. All right, Jessica, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself for our audience and tell us a little bit about you and, your background, your family, and all the good stuff you have going on.
Aw. Yeah. So I'm Jessica McIntosh. I am a women's branding, portrait, and retreat photographer. And I've been a photographer for about 15 years, which seems insane to say. I always, somehow in my mind, I feel like, oh, I've just been doing this for a few years, but I know that's not true. Um, so 15, it feels like a very big number. Like I should be getting my permit soon. And I started out in the wedding world. I shot weddings for the last 14 years probably. And then I decided to kind of make this transition. I realized one of the things that I loved about weddings was just getting to encourage people and just see the beauty in the day and getting to know them intimately. And so I just realized, oh gosh, I love getting to do this with women. I love getting to encourage them and help them to see themselves as beautiful and really invest in their story and the brand and the vision that they're trying to bring into the world. And so I've just kind of over the last year made this little transition into the branding photography world. And then outside of photography, I'm a mom. I have two boys and a husband. His name is Brett, and we live in Nashville, Tennessee, Nashville proper. I'm a unicorn. I have lived here my whole life.
Oh, wow.
And I know. And my husband actually grew up in Mount Juliet, so he's also lived here his whole life. And neither of us sing or play an instrument. So
I know that's like kind of the requirement. You move from out of state to
I know.
Nashville and you have a musical background in some form
I
or fashion.
know. And we don't sing or play an instrument, but I feel like in the creative space, like you can throw a rock
Yeah,
and hit a photographer. So maybe that checks the box.
absolutely. Absolutely. And then also on top of your branding photography, which is like part branding, is your retreat photography.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I have just found a huge love into this space. And I'm so grateful to you to bringing me to so many of your wonderful retreats. Shout out to all Amber House retreats because they're amazing forever and always. And I have just loved getting to kind of, you get this little behind the scenes world where women have finally slowed down and taken a very specific time to invest in themselves. And sometimes they're business, but sometimes it's just a fun retreat, not necessarily business. But they've taken a specific amount of time to invest in themselves and to set aside time for themselves. And getting to the opportunity to go into that space where they are ready to receive and to just really shine and recharge. And then when I get to take photos of them, it is just, it's like magic. It's like a breath of fresh air because they've just been in this great space where they've kind of gotten to clear their mind from all the things of life and all the things that they're doing and running. And they get to focus on themselves. And that really comes through in photos at retreats. And not to mention, it's just fun, documenting all of the girly moments and the toasts and the dinners and the squeals and the hugs. Like it's just, it's so energizing for me, and it's so great for the retreat host because then you get to promote your retreats and show how
Yes.
amazing they were. And while you get to be fully immersed in what you're doing and present with the ladies, you're not worried about, oh my gosh, did they get this moment? Did this happen? Did this get recorded? Can we show this next time? I got you, girl.
Yes.
So
Yeah, you got it. I mean, you're quite the pro at it. A lot of events. I can't even count. We've done a lot of
I
retreat
know.
events over the last couple of years, and it just comes so easy to you. And I know you also offer this as a service for other retreat hosts. You kind of
Yes,
travel. Tell me about that. Like you travel kind of all over the U.S. now, doing retreat
I
photography
do.
too.
Oh my gosh, Amber, I feel so fortunate. This it is just this wonderful connection. I feel like as women, when we find something that works for us, we want to tell other people about it. And so I have been so fortunate that one woman tells another woman, and then I end up in Florida or Portland or Ohio. I'm going to Ohio in September to photograph another retreat. And I think that it has been so unexpected. Um, I did not see that coming, years down the road, but it has been such a cool experience. I really do feel like somehow I get to balance like being present and like investing in the women there as well in my own way, but just kind of been like absorbing and being like a little fly on the wall to let the magic happen that for whoever is hosting it, and for, you know, the group of the community of people that they've brought together. I just kind of get to be an observer of all the magic. And when I get to be a part of the retreat, I get to see a lot more of those behind the scenes moments. I get to understand the why. I get to see the relationships that are happening, you know, maybe the beautiful light in this room, or, oh gosh, I know this person's probably going to walk in this door because they haven't seen so and so in 2 years and they're about to be pumped, you know. Or there's going to be this breakthrough moment, or everyone's getting dressed up in our beautiful dresses and we're going to go take pictures on the beach before we head to dinner. Those moments are just, we have these like memories in our mind, and I feel like I just get to freeze time really quick so that we can hold on to those moments where we're just living. I'm so grateful.
Well, and I can tell like your just sentiments like really shine through in your dedication to this work. Like I think I've worked, I mean, I've been doing events for however long now, 15 years or so, and my own retreats, you know, for more than a decade. And so I've worked with a variety of different photographers, and I know going into it, especially like when I was a wedding planner, you know, you have different photographer styles, you have different personalities that come along. So like I was always, you know, really aware of that, and all of them have all their benefits and whatnot. But you were one of the photographers that I know that when I first worked with you, how invested you were in the experience. And I think you kind of, you just shared it, but I don't think the like audience quite knows. I want to unpack it as a retreat host. It's very common to have a photographer come in and document the experience, which is like, I mean, at the minimum, that's what we usually do need. And so usually when I'm teaching other retreat hosts, I'm talking about the importance of capturing the details that you spent a lot of time planning, and how that's really helpful in painting the picture for if you want to do retreats in the future and events, right? So you have like, this is what it looks like, showing, you know, just different experiential things, you know, of moments of delight, of moments of work, or whatever your retreat's about. And so at the very minimum, like you want the coverage, right? Like that's the most important part. But what I found was interesting that I didn't know I desired or wanted was actually like another person there who was invested in the experience. And so you kind of blew me away right away. Is the very first one you photographed me was an inspired retreat. And one of the first things we do at Inspired Retreat on the very first day in the evening is we do this like game called Cookie Jar. So we go, Cookie Jar. And just so everyone knows too, is Jordan on my team, who is one of our retreat concierge, and kind of like, we call her the cruise director. Yes. Jordan has this really fun cruise director personality. And so she made up this game, and we named it Cookie Jar. It just made sense, right? Where you go and you actually write some fun little surprising facts about you that, you know, others wouldn't know offhand, right? And when you play this game for the first time, everybody doesn't know each other. Most people are coming to the retreats and they're strangers, and they're also like kind of a little still out of their comfort zone. It's day one and you're already asking you know, them to show up in their PJs, like in the evening after dinner. But we always tell our attendees, we're like, even our introvert friends, come to this one game. I promise you, it'll be easy. You can go to bed afterwards and you can go introvert. It's totally okay. But come to play this one game. And so we start playing the game, but we needed a scorekeeper, and somehow you're always the scorekeeper, which also I'm thankful, because it's like kind of a like not a high stress job, but like you're like, I got it.
Cookie Jar is a little stressful. Like not like the game itself, it's not, but when it's like you're trying to remember, like, okay, you got that right. You got that right. I need you to raise your hand. No, over there. Keep your hand up. Keep your hand up. Like, like I have to put on a little bit of a teacher hat for just a quick minute. And I'm not usually the super detail-oriented person. I'm like a little feelings fairy, but I feel like I really get to own, like, I'm doing it. I'm keeping score. And then I get to celebrate. Like, I get to be like, oh, like this person's coming in hot. You guys better catch up, you know?
You add some fun element to it. Like so if anyone is taking anything from this conversation, like Jess is in it. Like she's in the game. Like
I am in it. Yes.
Yeah.
And I love to think about being there. I think about my presence at someone's retreat as I am showing up to photograph what you need photographed, but I am in it to support you. Like I want to care about your retreat attendees and what your mission is and whatever it is you're bringing to the, whether it's rest and relaxation or, you know, deep diving into their businesses a little bit of a mix of both, like whatever that is. And I mean, I've done like I've had rock star organizers. I've worked with like a team of organizers that did a retreat. It can be anything.
Yeah.
But I want to be invested in your people because I want to add value to your experience and to your retreat. And if you don't want that, if you don't want a little personality to show up on and invest
Yeah.
in your people and kind of be a cheerleader for you, I'm probably not your gal. So if you just want somebody to fly on the wall, I like you said, like that has its place. But I love what I enjoy bringing and what I feel like my clients have really benefited from, even just to elevate experience and let their people know how invested they are in them. Like let the person who's hosting the retreat, let
Yeah.
they're just kind of adding another element of experience for their attendees is my hope, that I'm only adding to the experience.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's like you're an attendee, like you're
Mm-hmm.
participating as an attendee, but you're also participating as like a team member now. Now you've like joined the
Yes.
team basically, right? To make the
Yes.
experience a great one, and you're modeling like good attendee behavior. Like that's what I
Yeah.
could say too. Like,
Yes.
oh, okay, like you know what I mean? Because sometimes
Yes.
as a host, you're especially for my newer retreat hosts, like they're nervous. They're a ball of nerves. They're like, is anyone gonna like this game? Is anyone gonna want to even talk or
Yes.
share? And so just having you like kind of help like show like this is where we're going, it gives the invitation to others to kind of show up at that same way too.
Yes.
Yeah.
I read a book a long time ago that I'm going to blank on the title of, but it talked about the gift of going first.
Mm,
And I love offering the gift of going first. It can feel a little scary, but I think what invites that, and I think the gift that I've been given and the women that I get to work with, women like you're not leaving somebody out there hanging to feel awkward. You're pulling everybody in with you. And I've just noticed that as a thread of the women that I've gotten to work with, like they raise up everybody around them.
mhm.
There's not that kind of yucky attitude or like, even like if I'm hired help, so to speak, there are some people that could just kind of be like, you're here to work, go do
Mhm.
your job. And I do want to do my job well. But something I think is so beautiful is that even when we are there to work, you do such a great job of pulling everybody in and making sure that everybody feels valued and has a seat at the table. And I think the women that I get to work with all have that same value system. And so that I'm able to integrate really well into your world because you're already giving people the gift of going first. So it's easy to jump in and do that.
It's easy. Well, on that same topic, what would make your job easier? Like when people are reaching
Mm.
out to you or all of our, event hosts that are listening right now, what makes your job easier so you can deliver, the best that you can?
Ooh, that's a good question. Um, so I love the more information, the better. The more that you can share with me. A lot of people just are like, oh, I have this retreat and it's going to be for 3 days and I don't really know what I need. Sometimes that happens. So the more information that you can give me, the better. Who are you focusing on? What's the theme for your retreat? What expectation do you have? Do you need me to, show up and actually invest in your people and kind of be a part of things? Do you need a fly on the wall that's not going to, kind of interact and just let you guys do your thing, just be an observer? Do you need just coverage for your event? Which I think some people like breaking down what you need at a retreat can feel a little intimidating because,
Mhm.
maybe you need, maybe it's a 1 day event, maybe it's a multi-day event and we're all staying the night on site somewhere. So those kind of details are super helpful in planning. And then thinking through, do you just need coverage for your event or do you also need an experience like headshots for your attendees or little mini branding sessions for your attendees, just to kind of add that little extra delight in there for your attendees? Like, what do you need from your photographer and what are you hoping to get out of the experience? And so I think I'm a place that I love to start with the consultation call for my clients because there's so much to think through and talk through. So I love for somebody to kind of send me their basic info. What do you practically need? What are the dates? Where are we going to be at? Are we in Nashville? Are we traveling? And then let's create a call so that I can hear your heart. I can hear your passion. And a lot of times I'm able to talk people through understanding, oh, I didn't even know this was an option. Let me help you get to what it is you really need. And because retreats especially are so specific, like there's really not just like it's not like a wedding day where it's like, I know I have like a beginning, a middle, and an end on this one day, and I'm just going to send you a wedding package.
Yeah.
Retreats are so specific to each person. It could be one day, multi-day, etc. So
Yeah.
really getting all that information out is super helpful. And then scheduling that call so I can hear your heart behind what you want to do really helps me to get my wheels turning to bring your vision to life.
I love that. I love that. And I think you gave some really good examples because some people who are newer to planning events or retreats and things for their business may not have the wedding background that you and I have, right? Like
Yeah.
we know how detailed our timelines are for weddings. And so that knowledge was very transferable when it came over to retreats. In fact, usually retreats are like mini weddings, right? That just go over several days. And so it's easy for us to be choosy. And so I like that you've really broken it down of like, here's all the possibilities that we have. And I would also encourage people too, is I can tell you about a photographer experience I had. It was not with Jess, many, many years ago, early in Inspired Retreat. And I had a photographer who came on that was referred to by a friend. I didn't have a personal relationship, but I usually like to have people that I have some kind of connection with, right? And I don't think I was clear enough in the beginning of what my expectations were. And I'll be totally honest, I'll own that, right? And this was, again, like probably 7 or 8 years ago. And I had already had like a retreat under my belt, but I was working with people who maybe I had worked with. They had a little bit more laid back attitude. So they were very much like new. They were there to serve, but like I didn't have these expectations, right? And so this photographer did have we weren't just on the same page at all. And kind of no matter how many times I communicated, you don't have to shoot the entire time. Like, I don't need you, like, during each speaker session to shoot from the start of the presentation to the end. Like, because I wasn't that succinct, she was shooting the entire time. I can't even imagine the gallery that was delivered to me at the end of images I didn't really need because they were so repetitive, right?
Yeah.
And she burned herself out. Like, she actually had, like, I think on like the very last night, she had run herself ragged. And I'm sharing this story is because there's a little bit of like responsibility on the other side too, because I remember I told her specifically, you do not need to do this. Right.
Yeah.
And she still did it anyway. Right. There was like a little bit of martyrdom that kind of happened in that situation that just like left like with a total icky feeling, like where I'm like, how did this happen? And it's always about like miscommunications are just like differences in expectations. Right. And so
that's right.
Thankfully after that experience, like when it was over, I was like, I never want that to happen again. And so now every time I've worked with a photographer, I was like, listen, here's exactly what I need. When each speaker goes up there to talk, I need maybe 2 or 3 shots finished of them on the stage, right? Maybe 1 or 2 of people writing in their books, and then you're done. Like sit down after the first 5 minutes, take a break. I'm always very like encouraging to tell them like, hey, like we want to do some detailed shots of dinner, but then now I want you to go sit and eat the dinner with the attendees. I have no expectation of you eating the whole time.
It's so helpful. And those are such like, because you are the retreat queen, like those types of things, not everybody communicates, like you said. And so I'm actually grateful because I've learned over the years, now I know to ask those questions. Because sometimes they have been communicated to me. So if a client is having a dinner, I will go ahead and get ahead of it and say, would you like me to photograph this event? And then would you like me to go and kind of set aside, or do you want me to be a part of things? What do you have the bandwidth for? What do you need for your group? And they're like, oh, thank you for asking. I didn't even think about that. And so it's just this beautiful communication. Some of it is the experience, and some of it is probably your photographer that got burned out. We love our job so much, and I think sometimes we think like, how do I get to do this? That we feel like we like need to prove something, like we have something to prove. And so I love that with experience just kind of comes this confidence of saying, I've got it, and I don't have to prove. I don't have to keep going like a Energizer bunny. I know I've got the shot. I know my client well enough, and I've communicated well enough. And so now I can go sit down. And if I see another moment, like it's not like I go and I sit on my phone and I'm like checked out.
No.
I'm still aware, I'm still aware of what's happening. If I notice something cool, like a cool moment's happening, I have my camera close by, maybe I'll grab it. But you kind of lose the like standing at attention, constantly waiting for the next thing to happen, which is so, so nice when the host is able to communicate that with the photographer. Because I think sometimes we can associate like, oh, I'm sitting down and relaxing with, you're not doing your job. So it's like a good a good tool of communication to just say, oh no, I got you, girl. Like
Yeah.
it's okay.
So good. And it makes me think of too is like another tool that we can provide, like in my retreat planning program, Invite and Delight, in that course, I go and give an example of what a shot list looks like. And
Oh yeah.
again, these are things that we knew in the wedding industry, right? Like of like, these are the must have photos. Like, we want coverage of all these things, but like at the very minimum, please, can you cover these particular images? And so a lot of people don't know what those are. So I have a ready-made list, but I think if a person were to go back and create that again, because I want the photographer to feel prepared and feel equipped, and they're not
Yes.
guessing what you want, and so they're taking pictures of everything, right?
Yes.
That's maybe not as important. And so what a person can do is actually take the timeline for the event and kind of go hour by hour, and like maybe over in like a right hand column in a spreadsheet, like, right, hey, of the images, like make sure we get the welcome table that has the name badges on it, make sure
Yes.
we grab Amber, like we always do a cocktail photo. I'm a
Yes.
big signature cocktail girl. So Jess knows every time, like when we're doing pre ones, we're like, let's go get Amber a cocktail. We can go get a couple shots outside with that. So it's just
Yes.
like the easiest way to break it down is just to go hour by hour in your timeline and think like, what would be the story that you
Yes.
would want to show in an image? So you just have it down. So then it's a great guide you can just hand over to the photographer.
Yes, that's so helpful. And even being able to know what that story is that you want to tell, I think is like that kind of starting to understand that is like in that place of what are you passionate about, what story you're trying to tell, and then helping to kind of write that out. Because it's like, oh, are there any surprises happening? Are there any, big moments that you need documented? But I love your suggestion of like, let's actually look at this minute by minute, because leaving yourself breathing room is so important. We're able, it's not like we take 45 minutes and go get cocktail photos of you, but it's brilliant in your timeline. And I've even carried this over for other retreat attendees just to let them know, like, hey, this is a possibility. If you're getting dressed up for an event, you've picked a theme, you've done a lot of work, taking 10 minutes before your attendees come down, or maybe while they're getting started with like a little cocktail situation, let's go get some photos of you. You look your best. You're feeling excited and great. The setting is beautiful. Let's take advantage of this so that you have more collateral to use later, whether it's for an Instagram post or a future retreat. You just have these little pockets of let's take advantage of all of these things that you've worked really hard to pull together so that you have more to use later or whatever capacity you need. I love thinking through those little pockets of time.
That's great. I know I always say that it feels like every time I do a retreat, it's like I'm doing a branding session at the same time.
You really are.
We're
Yeah.
taking the time. We're taking the time
Yes.
before it. Like, let's go grab a couple photos, of me that we can use for something down the road. And it's so helpful. So helpful.
Yes. Yes. That's so good to think about ahead of time.
And I think too is the one other thing that came to mind when we were talking about this is you were talking about the cocktail hour. And one thing that can happen in retreat hosting is, you have the best intentions with your timeline. You're like, we're going to start at, which you guys, I will tell you, like mine is always like 15 minutes off. I'm like the queen of 15 minutes, like of we're just running behind just 15 minutes here. Because I just want to add just that extra little touch that, to me is really important. And it's true.
Yep.
It comes true in our reviews. So it's worth it.
Does.
But what can happen is like we might have a little delay in starting something or getting things ready. And so I found, especially for locations of retreats where you're not all in the same place, so Inspired Retreat again is a good example of where I usually typically rent out like an entire inn like out in the woods. Yes. And we have lodges and cabins and like different spaces. And so we're all spread out. We're not under one entire roof. And so we need to use communication tools. And so the easiest way that we found, and this is more recent, we hadn't done, and I don't know why we didn't, and it made sense now. We use an app called Voxer, which is kind of like a audio and text messaging app that you can do. It's free. And we always had a team one, but we didn't have Jess on the team thread. And so we would be busy little bunnies behind the scenes like, oh, I'm running down to light the candles, or I'm with the staff right now. We're pouring the drinks, whatever. And then we weren't telling Jess. We were doing it like in an external. So now we just add Jess to that thread. And whether or not she needs the information, she at least like knows, oh, this is what's going on right now. So I know where.
That's right. That's right. And it's so helpful because it's like, oh, you know what? Amber needs 5 more minutes because she did have to go grab, the badges that got left in the back room. Okay, I have a few more minutes with this table. Or that lets them know, hey girls, I'm heading down to photograph these details, and that they can let me know when they're done so I can move seamlessly into the next thing. I really do think that's beneficial if you're in a position where you're hosting a retreat and you do have a good relationship with your photographer and you do want it to be someone that's integrated, finding those little ways, like if you do have a team that's helping you, just integrate them for the weekend. That way they can be just aware of what's going on. And that just gives me it makes me, one, feel like I'm more part of the team. So I have all the information that I need, but two, it just allows me to work so much more seamlessly and get more images for you guys, because I'm not wasting time like trying to call one of you and somebody's up the road and I'm down at the lodge, and it just it makes everything so seamless. So yes, using Voxer to communicate kind of with your whole team and keeping your photographer in that loop, huge change.
So good. I mean, you are a part of the team, and so it's just like getting people to realize that and use it to the best of your ability. I love that.
That's right.
So
That's right.
I want to talk now about your background and how the way you approach branding photography, because we were talking about how these retreats, if you're hosting one, it almost is a reflection of your brand. You can do almost these little mini brand sessions kind of at these retreats, but obviously I'm a big believer in investing in branding imagery for your business. Like, it's so powerful, such a big marketing need that everyone, or even requirement, you could say, that most businesses need. But I found what was interesting about your background, and I've heard it through storytelling, because I think I learned it through Cookie Jar.
Oh yeah,
right? Yeah, like a little pageant background, a little modeling background, which now I have to share how you and I first met. So like, I feel like we need to back it up even now. Probably 10 years, would you say?
Maybe more than it has to at least be 10, because I can't remember if my husband and I were actually married yet. So we've almost been married for 14 years. So maybe like 10 or 11 years.
Yeah, 10 or 11 years. So Jessica and her husband were models for me in a photo shoot for my wedding business. I worked with another photographer, and we planned to do a photo shoot that we wanted to submit to a wedding magazine, and we needed models, right? And I remember that was actually one of my big first shoots as a planner, of like putting together the details and shopping. And we actually did it by the lake over at this yacht club, country club that's over by our house. And you were our bride.
I was your bride. And I got to actually be, sometimes because I did some modeling, I would have a groom that wasn't my husband.
Oh, yes.
So I was so glad that it was actually my husband that day and not some random man.
Yeah. Yes. Absolutely.
And he did so good, because he doesn't have a modeling background, but he's just kind of gotten married into, I rope him into a lot of things, God bless our husbands. They get roped into a lot.
Yeah, they do. They just go along with our crazy ideas. I love it.
That's right.
So that's where we first met. And then we just kind of stayed in touch over the years, like through the industry and whatnot. And then I know I had a need for an event, and I had seen your marketing, your marketing, your branding photography. And I was like, oh, well, I want to try Jess out. I'm going to go ahead and bring her over into our retreats. And so then now it's been a couple years since. So tell our listeners about your background and how that has kind of like made you more comfortable in actually coaching. I feel like you're a coach to women when they are behind your camera. So share a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started modeling when I was pretty young. I feel like most girls who just get, just love being in front of the camera. I don't know. I love dresses and all the girly things. And I actually worked at a bridal boutique for 5 years, which was such a fun time in my life. But when I started out modeling, I was pretty young. I was probably 12 or so. And so I started out being in front of the camera pretty early on. And it was just, I never did anything huge. I was a Nashville commercial type model, but it was just a lot of fun. And it allowed me to learn a lot about photography, a lot about being in front of the camera. And I learned very quickly what it can feel like to be on the other side of the camera and just be feeling like, what am I doing? What am I looking like? Is this okay? Do you like what I'm doing? Do I look crazy? Like all of the questions that are rolling through your head. And I learned what it felt like when a photographer communicated really well with me. And I learned what it felt like when they did not. And when it was just this awkward silence and you're just like, is this working? And you don't know. And it's so uncomfortable and it's so vulnerable being in front of the camera. We're as photographers, I am trusted with some of your most vulnerable moments. You are figuring out how to look and present and trusting your body and your intuition, and then being encouraged. Yes, that looks fabulous. That looks great. Okay, maybe let's try this different angle, and doing it in a way that doesn't make you feel devastated or insecure, but doing it in a way that it encourages curiosity. It encourages you to kind of keep exploring and confidence. I've found that when women, like, we are so tough on ourselves, we are in our heads a lot. If I actually got paid by the times that when someone first met me and they said, I hate having my picture made, I would be really rich. Because that's like our initial thing, we like have to get it out there. Like, I hate doing it. And so I pride myself when a woman says, that was really fun, or that wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. I'm like, yes. Because so many more people are capable of being in front of the camera than they think. And so those years of being behind the camera, or being in front of the camera rather, really helped to prepare me to how to help other people feel comfortable. I also learned, there's a difference between a model type photo shoot where, maybe you're marketing, a clothing or a product or whatever for someone else, versus marketing yourself for your business. And so there are modelly poses and things you can do and have a person do that might look really cool. Maybe they maybe they look, but it's not actually a reflection of the person. And so I feel like the difference with branding photography is we're not just looking for cool poses. We're not just looking for something that, I don't know, is just looks great on Instagram. We do want something to look great on Instagram, but really it's a reflection of you. So I love studying people. We have a lean. Amber Housley has a position that she prefers, a way that her head tilts, when she's really listening to you, her real smile when it really comes out, and we all have those things about us. And I love studying the women that I'm working with, and to help bring out not just a modelly pose that looks good, but what looks good about them, what highlights them, what is true for them, because that's what your clients want to see. And that's what we see when we're not thinking about it. If something happens when we get in front of the camera and we're like, okay, and it's like, what do I do? So you need someone that's going to just talk to you, encourage you, tell you that's looking really great. Here, let me show you that. How do you feel about this? A question I ask a lot of my clients is, do you see you? Because I want them to see themselves and not just any old person. We want to see you, and that really matters to me. So I'm grateful for that background in modeling, because the courage it takes to get in front of the camera, I know what it takes. And I know what it feels like to, some not so nice things were said to me. I think I went to an audition, or I went to an agency when I was younger, and I hadn't been there for 2 years. Maybe their agency merged or something, so I brought my comp. And the lady looked at me, and the first thing she said to me, she's like, oh, you really grew into your nose. And as a 12-year-old, I was like, I didn't know something was wrong with my nose. And so it's devastating to hear those things. And I don't want to be that for women. We have enough of that going on back here in our heads. So even I like to ask women, is there something that you're more aware of, or something that you don't want focused on or accentuated in your photos? And that way I can be cognizant of it. I'm not putting anything on them. They get to say, oh yeah, I don't love my profile so much. Jessica, and I'm like, great. Well, we'll do a lot more straight on shots. Thanks for sharing that with me. I want to help you feel your best. And the more that I know about you and see you and watch you and interact with you, the more I can help bring that out. So I like to do my homework.
That's like some serious homework. And all I kept thinking of as you were sharing your heart about this is just how much you study other people, how much homework you do. I mean, you said that earlier, and how much you are passionate about that. It is more than taking the picture. It's really getting to know the people. And that's truly something special.
Yes. My heart is really, I think, just encouragement. We have a hard time showing up. If we can show up in our businesses, then that means we're showing up to serve other people and to kind of do what our purpose is and to make the world better, because there are so many incredible women out there. And so if I can be any form of encouragement to help them step up in their business, to show up in their business, because you got to do it. It's so hard, but you got to do it. then that means I'm getting to see them do what they're made to do in the world, because then they can serve clients and they get seen by more people. And that's just incredible. So we just got to keep encouraging each other to keep showing up in our businesses.
I love that. And I remember at a recent retreat, we were talking about, visions and new things we wanted to bring about in our business. And one of those things was this idea around community and how your business that that you've created and you've built off photography is so much more than that. And you just had an event yesterday, actually, of this recording. I was so sad I missed it. I was coaching my daughter's cheer team down on the other side of town, so I'm going to make it the next one. But share a little bit about that vision for these events and just kind of what goes on at them. Because I think they're also a really neat marketing idea. It's like I know you're not, I don't think that's your intention, or maybe it is, but it's a little bit of everything. So share about the concept.
That's right. Yeah. My husband was like, so what exactly are you doing? I told him, and I was like, kind of at the baseline, I would say, it is a client appreciation of some sort. I want to find a way to thank these women that have chosen to invest in my business this year and invest in themselves. And so I want to celebrate that and tell them thank you. But also, I feel like I get to meet some of the most incredible women in the world from all different industries, all different backgrounds. They are doing so many incredible things in the world. And I feel like my life is more enriched because of it. And so I just was like, I want these women, they should all know each other. Like they really should know each other, because, one of us might have a superpower or a gift that can elevate or help the other one. Or maybe just have a new friend in the room. Like, it doesn't even have to be like a networking event per se. But really it's this acknowledgement of seeing other women. And I was noticing this thread, and all of the ladies that I serve, they're all leaders of other leaders. I feel like these are all women that are leading well in their industries, and they don't keep anything to themselves, and they're compassionate, and they are just kind of that tide that raises all ships is really what I saw. And so I was like, I know if I get all these women in the same room, something really incredible is going to happen. And so I wanted to host a party. I kind of called it like a client appreciation party. But there was no catch. Like, there was no bait and switch. It was just a party. And I treated them we had drinks, and we had food, we had little bites, and I had gifts for all of them. We had a little theme so that we could all take some photos with some beautiful, I had some of my balloons left over from yesterday. And really, I just took a moment to go around the room after we'd all kind of been mingling for a bit and just kind of name who they were, because it can be hard to walk into a room and say, okay, hi, here I am, let me give you my credentials, or, I feel like I've gotten to see these women for so much more than just the front of their businesses. I've gotten to see their hearts and see that vulnerable side of them and learn about their families or, what their struggles are. And so their experience makes up so much more of who they are than what you can say in a quick little, hi, I'm so-and-so, and I'm from, Nashville, Tennessee. And so I just would kind of go around the room, and I introduced them a little bit, said what I love and see in them and what I have received value from them. And then they just did a little, this is who I am, and this is what I think my superpower is, because they all have it. And it was so much fun. We laughed and we celebrated each other. We talked about some of our struggles we have in business so that you're not alone. And then we just really had a good time. And I think they left with some new friends. Maybe they left with someone that's like, oh, you know about this. Oh my gosh, can we connect? And I can learn about this from you. I just had no idea this was something I needed, which was really cool. There was at one point, there was a woman in the room who is a lawyer, and she works on some advocacy for stuff. And another woman in the room had just opened an adoption agency in Nashville. Oh. And she was like, oh, I need to talk to you because I'm going to be advocating for some families and adoption stuff. And so can I talk to you? I was like, yes, I would love to help with that. So it was so cool to see those connections being made. And for me, I hope I'm top of mind for my clients and that they get to see I put my money where my mouth is. And that is, I care about them and their businesses. I care about seeing their businesses succeed. And so I hope that means I hopefully stay top of mind for them for sure, for their photo needs. But now I've also added value to their lives by connecting them to other women that they may have never been connected with otherwise. So, and just encouragement. We all need it. We're in the business world. We hear no's and yeses, and sometimes we hear more no's Sometimes we're in a struggle bus. Sometimes we are like celebrating all the victories. And so it's just so nice to kind of get out of our little bubble and see kind of the bigger picture of things and be like, oh yeah, the gift I bring to the world is needed. And so just to celebrate that and honor that in each of them.
I love it. What a great concept. Like you said, it's just everything wrapped up in one package. So I love that you dreamed that up and I love that you got to do it and I can't wait for the next
Yay,
one. I know,
I
I'm sure you
know.
learned a lot, like with everything hosting events, you probably learned a
My
lot. You're
gosh.
like, "Hey, this is what
Yes,
I'll do next time," or "This is what I want to do more of." Like,
yes,
love it.
yes. I was so grateful. I was so grateful for my team because I'm sure you well know we have all these. I'm a dreamer. I think I'm the visionary. I get really excited about all these opportunities, and I need somebody that's like, Jess, this is how we're going to make this happen. We have to get
Yeah.
from point A to point B. And so I was so grateful that I had those people that were able to help execute and just make sure it's like, no, we got to do this next. We have to make sure this happens. Okay, this
Yeah.
is fabulous that you want to be a little dream fairy, but we have to make sure it can happen. So I'm so grateful
Oh,
for
I love it.
all those people in our lives that help pull all the details together.
Yes, yes. You need it. You need it. You can't do this alone for sure.
No.
For sure.
Mm-mm.
Well, where can our friends find you online and what are you working on next in the business?
Oh yeah, so you can find me online on Instagram. I'm at Jessica Rai. Ray is spelled a little weird. It's RAI. You can also find me on my website is jessicamcintosh.net. You can find me on Facebook as well. And I haven't entered into the TikTok space yet, but maybe I'll start to get my way there. And an email, you can always email me at jessica@jessicamcintosh.net. And then next for me is just continuing to press into these women's lives, to press into the retreat world. I am hoping to get to know more and more women so I can tell more and more stories and help them show up in their businesses and their lives so that they can do what they're meant to do. So I'm just going to keep on trucking. I'm so excited. I think I have Ohio this month, which I'm really looking forward to, and South Carolina. So I'm going to get to
And Bloom and Grow Live. Yes,
and Bloom and
yes.
Grow Live, yes, it's
Yeah.
right in the middle of all that. Yes, actually, it's
Yeah.
like I have South Carolina, Bloom and Grow Live, and Ohio, so it's going to be a
Yes.
little trip going on.
Yeah. So if you're coming to that, if you're listening, you'll get to see Jess in action and get to say hi to her too. And it's
Yes,
going to be great. Yes. Well, thank you so much for sharing your heart for like the work that you do. I loved all the things that we talked about bringing you on as a team member for retreats and all the tips that we helped people think about now as they're getting
yes.
their own retreats and live events photographed. So thank you for all your wisdom.
Ah, thank you, Amber. You're amazing. I so appreciate you, just what you do and the way that you serve this amazing community. So thanks for including me.
Thank you.